Welcome back, everyone. How are you doing? Refreshed a bit after the break? Hopefully it is, because we nearly hit the 40 degrees after the previous session. So I think it's much better now due to the break. So that's a good thing, at least. Well, my name is Peter Stol. I'm with Mendix for over 6 years, and I have the happy opportunity to work with a lot of clients at Mendix and also guide them through the digital transformation and help them provide the right expert services when needed when they're going into their journey of digital transformation. Today, I'm going to tell you a bit more about how to make your start phase a success. But before I do that, I want to quickly do a short recap on the previous presentation of Menno, where he told a bit about the 4 Ps and the 3 S's, just to make sure that everyone's aligned and on the same page. The starting point of the 4 Ps is really about the portfolio. At first, this really means simply identifying your first project. But as your Mode 2 organization matures, it's really about developing a portfolio for your applications and ideas and initiatives. After you have your portfolio selected, it really comes down to the people. You need to select the right people based on your portfolio with the right skills, but also the right mindset. It's really important to have people with the right mindset in your organization, in your Mode 2 organization as well. And don't forget what's very important when you're up the hill doing digital transformation in your organization. You need to have the right sponsorship in place. Right sponsorship in place is very important when it comes to changing your organization. The process is also very important, and it's not just only about agile, not only about agile methodologies. It's more than that. You can do a project agile, but it also concerns a lot of DevOps processes. What happens if you have your first MVP live? But after that, are you able to continuously release and provide new features and new value to the business? It's really important that you set up the right processes as well in your organization to make sure that you're successful and you can really achieve your digital goals. But last but certainly not least, you need also a platform to support that. A platform is not only a cloud solution, a cloud platform, for instance, like Mendix, but it also concerns a lot of reusable components, which you can plot on your platform, but also reusable services like machine learning. You've probably seen at the stage at IBM, but also AWS services, which you want to consume in order to make this smart app or in order to make and build your portfolio for your digital goals. For the digital transformation roadmap, we at Mendix created a practice, like the digital transformation practice, and from that practice, and based on our experience, we defined a digital transformation roadmap. The digital transformation roadmap is all about the 3 S's you can see here. The start phase is really about success and focus on success with the first project. I'm going to tell you a bit more in a minute. And it's all about establishing real business and IT collaboration in this first project, and it needs to be a catalyst for your organization, how you can unleash further innovation to your organization. After the start phase, that really also is the stepping stone for structure phase. You have a lot of important lessons learned of your start phase, which you need to apply into your structure phase. You need to structure processes, you need to build your first team, you need to build some architectural best practices, etc. And principles for reuse, so you can easily and keep on fast delivering across the 5 to 10 apps. Moving from structures to scale is all about growing the teams and having multiple teams, and not only teams centralized, but also distributed teams, working with other geographics, other locations, perhaps other business units, place teams into business units that need to achieve their digital goals. So there, it's very important that you have your processes structured before that phase, because otherwise they lose control and track out of the platform and the best practices and everything that's available for reuse. So as projects get larger and teams grow and will be more distributed, alignment with the overall project is key. Today, I'm going to tell you about start phase. I framed this slide and found this quote because I think this is one of the most important things in your start phase. You really want to be focused on proof and celebrating that success. Your first project should be the catalyst and also the example for others to follow. So it needs to be a successful project, but also the lessons learned you need to apply into your organization and to share with other people, because they really should come to you and asking you to apply this new approach to solve their problems, so they can also share in that success you have. But be careful. Remember to start small. And the start phase is really also about learning, training of your organization, interaction, not only training and learning for IT, but also especially for the business, because it's a new way of working in most cases. They don't know Agile, they're not used to Agile development. It's all about co-creation and collaboration during this start phase. To help you getting out of the gate, we defined sort of a 5-step approach for the start phase. And this will address all the 4 P's on the left side into your start phase, and will help you deliver success, but also gather proof in order to make sure that you're ready to go structure and scale your organization. It starts with having a properly set up intake. You really need and want to understand what are the success criteria, what do I try to achieve in the organization. And then it's all about onboarding your first projects. What are the ingredients that I need? What are the prerequisites needed to make this successful? How can we make this successful explicitly in the organization? It's different for each organization. Team enablement. Like I mentioned, it's all about learning. And it's not just the development team, also the complete team of business and IT needs to collaborate. Otherwise, you won't be successful. Then it's important, like we do in Agile, in our Agile development cycles, to hold a retrospective. But don't do the retrospective only on the project. It's more important. It's also about lessons learned, what we need to change into the organization, and how we're going to set up structure to make it able to scale and set up the right team according to the portfolio. And last, but certainly not least, I think it's even the most important, how do you celebrate? How do you celebrate in your organization? Also, we obviously sometimes even make a plan for that. How we're going to celebrate in the organization. Do we have a stage? Do we have a venue? How we're going to do internal PR, just to make sure that it resonates through the organization, because otherwise you're not able to change the rest of the organization. So first, the intake. Like I mentioned, the intake is more than just capturing functional requirements for your project and for your first app. It's really about setting up the organization for change. Therefore, it's very important to define the success criteria. A sponsor, a senior sponsor, an executive sponsor is important to really help and together with you define this success criteria for your Mode 2 organization. What do you want to get out of that? Then second, it's important to select the right app. Like Max Gibbs mentioned, it might not be the best way to start with a complete rebuilding of a core enterprise system, which is a Mode 1 system, but more focused on other aspects of your perfect first app. And third, make sure the prerequisites are in place and also assigned before you head into the start phase. Defining success criteria. It's not only about what you want to build, it's really about what you want to achieve in this organization. I made a split here on specifically the digital transformation program, but also on the project level, because it's not specifically, okay, how are we going to deliver this app, and it needs to be fast, and it needs to comply with all the business needs, etc. No, it's basically your start of your transformation, and you were selecting a first project to do so. And that's a different mindset, rather than, okay, we're just going to run in, start a project, build some features, and then what did we learn about our organization? So on the digital transformation program, it's really about setting and making some criteria smart up front of your start. So for instance, on time to market, hey, you want to spread the word. You want to define criteria like, okay, I want to at least release every week, release a production-worthy project. I want to have and show some flexibility. How can we change? How easy can we change business requirements over sprints? And also, how fast can we deliver those new features, and how can we measure that? On the project level, it's important to really know what is the business goal. What is the value that we're bringing? What strategic business goals are we supporting? Or is it going to bring new revenue? Is it going to bring more exposure, new customers? Or is it just about cost savings, internal? And that's important to also use alongside your project. We even sometimes write the business goal up on a board where the complete team is sitting, so you can look at the user stories and point, okay, is this contributing to this business goal or isn't it? Because otherwise you don't want to implement it. And these are really small things, but it's really important because that really urges the team also to focus on the right things which is needed for the Starface. Also, it's during this intake, it's like I mentioned, it's important to have the executive senior sponsor on board who is going to lead this transformation to the organization. And next to that, you want to have the business owner there, who is assigned to this new idea, this new project, and who's owner of this business aspect. It might also be very, very relevant to include some power users when you're going to do an intake on this app. Okay, what we try to achieve, can we talk with some power users from you? Because to understand what really makes a difference for them in their day-to-day life. What kind of small nitty-gritty features can we add that really assure and bring that wow factor? And for instance, we recently built an application, a workflow application for a large enterprise organization where all the MDs and FDs needed to approve a certain form, or how do you call it? Yeah, it's a form. And they were not able because they needed to log into an application, etc., and need to approve it. But what we made is we made a small feature on their mobile phone so they can easily just approve and decline whether it was a good decision or not. And they were really happy with it because they are flying in and out meetings, airplanes, etc. And now they can easily make decisions quickly, and that really contributes to the value of the organization. Just an example. And also, like I mentioned, really there is not going to be any change, or there's no real motivation if there's no real value attached. So that's an important one. Next, select your first app. I think the example that is mentioned today, like the KLM app, was really an important one. I think that's really in the sweet spot, because the application that was mentioned that was going to improve the processes in the hangar was really also about value. There was a value component in it. It has high impact on the organization because it's dramatically improving more efficiency. Like normally they have like 30 or 15 minutes to look for other things into a large room. And it was also a real wow factor because you used new technology like beacons, etc. So they're very easily created, and it was therefore a bit of an isolated project as well. So I think that was a perfect example of doing a first good application, building it with a team. Also important to mention, it should really go live within 30 days, because if you're not able to achieve that, it will cost a lot of more effort, etc., and you probably not have the right project because you have a lot of dependencies, etc. Like I mentioned, it should be highly visible and needs to deliver direct business value, as the example I named just of the KLM app. And very much important, the business needs to be involved, and not only in the first stage. I think it's also important that they are involved continuously in the process, because they really need to understand and work with the business engineers or development team to implement the features in the right way. Also, a good example, I think, KLM, where they had like the design days, where they bring the developers and also the business together in one room to share ideas and bring business and technology all together. The application must have limited external dependencies. And you might think this must be cheating, but I think it's very important in your start phase. And you don't want to build or integrate with a lot of systems, because most of the times there are no APIs, or the APIs are not well defined, or they do have APIs, but they don't have a test environment which you can test against. So it will slow down your process, and it will not contribute to your success and your proof of your organization. Another important thing is, I think, in most cases, I've seen a lot of customers struggling with getting the infrastructure ready in time, which in most large enterprises could easily cost 2 to 3 months to get a server up and running. So we do advise, do your first start project in the Mendix cloud. And then after that, after your first success, decide whether you want to go private cloud on-premise, or you want to host it yourself, or you want to use one of our strategic partners to host your applications in. And also an important one, there should be a desire to take this application into production. If an application does not go in production, they would see it as a prototype. And there's no real urgency in the organization, and the value isn't really realized. So all focus should be on a minimal viable product which you can actually bring live, because it then also actually adds value. And it's also important for your program and your transformation program, because you want to get their experiences from this first production-ready application. Third, I think it's also very important to set the right prerequisites. The Mendix fit should really be important. Often I see a lot of customers with large, complex applications looking for, out-of-the-box custom widgets. We want to build a lot of widgets, etc. Very interesting, because they come from traditional program languages. They're used to use JavaScript, etc., build their own widgets, etc. But I think it's really important, specifically in the start phase, stick close to the platform, what you have. You can, in your structure phase, you can extend it. You can do the more advanced work, etc. But be focused on the business and IT collaboration, not on building new customized features, etc., which of course can be perfectly done within Mendix, but I think it's more a topic for the structure phase. The team, I think the team is key. The team is really important. Search for the right people. You either want business-savvy technical people, or you want the tech-savvy business people in your team. I think one of the customers that we had actually organized a mini hackathon after working days. And they asked, like, okay, who's joining? We have a new Mendix hackathon, new ideas, initiatives. And everyone who showed up was already a potential for this team. So that are important, I think, examples or tricks that you can do in your organization to see if you have the right people with the right mindset and the right skill sets in place. Business should really be committed. It can be really challenging when you have a product owner from the business, but he's not available to make any decisions, not available to chit-chat or have a discussion with the development team, because in Mendix you can really develop applications fairly fast, but you're strongly dependent on business decisions, requirements, etc. And that's often a challenge. So during the intake, you really need to stress this also to the organization. We need a product owner and someone from the business available, because it's going to be our success and not only the success of IT. And you want to be a team. Infrastructure, well, like I mentioned, is very important, but also should be available on time if you want to go on-premise. But also governance. I think governance is really important to make sure that you have a decision-making process, not only on features or small business decisions, but also on architectural decisions. What is the process for that? Who do we need to go to? Who have the authority to make this decision, etc. If you set the stage up front, you just know who you can talk to. Project onboarding. When you gathered all these information, you're ready to start. And by starting, I mean going into a proper kickoff. And I think a proper kickoff cannot be done without an executive sponsor in the room. And you really want to be prepared and not do all the prerequisites in the intake of the app during the kickoff. You want to do that upfront and then have a presentation, have clear objectives, etc., and align upon that with your executive sponsor, with your key business owners, with your development team on this plan. And that's where you build your real kickoff. This executive sponsor is key and should also highlight the importance of the organization of going into this transformation in this mode 2. Really just also to mention to the business, okay guys, this is not only about your application. This is bigger, this is larger. This is an example of how we're going to change the organization and become digital. Aligning upon business objective obviously is just very important, making sure that you set the right things. Educating on the roles and responsibilities is a very important one. Like I mentioned, the product owner needs to be educated that he has a strong responsibility here. He needs to be involved, and I mean not just 1 or 2, 3 hours a week. No, he needs to be spending a lot more time. But he should also be from the business, which is very important because they can make the right decisions, and it's important also for adoption within your organization, obviously. We usually, when we start a project and we run into an organization who isn't used to agile processes, etc., we often organize an agile awareness course, which can be a half a day with a business, with a few business owners who are involved in this project, just to educate them on agile. Probably a lot of you already seen a lot of agile techniques, but that's very important. So they really have the understanding, but also see the benefits of what they're contributing to. And also validate whether all the prerequisites that you asked for are in place, so you can assure a success. And when ready, you can use basically the same day or the afternoon to roll into your first sprint planning meeting, where it's really important that you're going to craft the backlog and the objectives that you really want to create. Team enablement. After you have your plan ready, you start sprinting, etc., the whole phase is about team enablement. It doesn't stop after the kickoff. No, the whole process is about learning, etc. So I framed up 4, I think, important elements. It's about model-driven development is the first one. It's really important to train the developers on the platform and educate them also on the capabilities, how to implement certain features. Highlight also the reusable elements that you can find in the App Store, which is a very important one, because otherwise you're building everything from scratch, where I think we have a very rich App Store where you can just pick a lot of important features or modules, etc., which you can easily use and embed into your solution. Like Derek showed in his presentation, our partner ecosystem already and the community delivered a lot of content there. And an important one I often see is not going very well is focus on the business problem and not on the customer vision solution. And a lot of times when you're interacting with a customer, he really shows you, okay, I can do this in Excel and I want it this way. I only want it this way because I'm used to it. But there are often a lot of different ways within Mendix to easily optimize that, because it can be the case that this customer is now, okay, processing in Excel and sending these Excels to his whole organization, then collecting the information and consolidate it. Why not build just a form and invite all the users so they can easily add their information and review it? That's a different mindset, it's a different process, because otherwise it can be difficult building a lot of the features. You really need to get the best out of the platform as well. The agile process, like I mentioned, agile awareness course I think is a really good example, but also coach the product owner, which is very important. It might be his first agile project. Then we often have a Scrum Master involved into the process who can really coach the product owner and making sure that the user stories are well defined on time, and also that the right decisions and the right priorities are in place. So the development team can really focus on what they really should do. Close collaboration. I think one of the important things is also the involvement of the business. So what we often do is sit at the customer, sit next to the business preferably, and otherwise if that isn't possible or challenging, you can implement daily walk-in hours. Just an hour to ask from the business, okay, can I ask you a few decisions, or can I show you this form, whether you think it's okay. It will help them, and it will continue their involvement, and they will be even more happier to share and to make decisions because they're involved into the process, and it's not needed that it needs to be captured in a lot of requirement documents, etc. And I think what is also important, I think a true benefit also Mendix, if you have like complex business logic, business rules, for example, just pick a time, pick an hour, go sit next to the business and put on the screen and show microflows. Show them how you build business logic and have them share their opinion, and you can work and collaborate complex business rules together. Also important, I think, in the collaboration is in most cases after a project is needed to go live, you perform a sort of UAT, a user acceptance test. I think specifically in this first phase, I think it's really important also to guide the customer or the end client or the end user or the business user in this UAT process. Make sure that there's the right data in place, make sure that you sit next to them, and a lot of items or a lot of nitty-gritty features you can easily fix within Mendix. It's more time of seconds rather than taking hours, filing tickets, etc., and in the process, etc. Remember that is necessarily in your structure phase, but in your start phase is more important. And I think it's really important to show results. The start phase is all about results, proof, etc. You want to show them a weekly demo. And really focus, I think, because that's very important, on the UI element of this application. And the end users will really judge a book by its cover. If they can see a real bright application, they will be very happy. But if they don't see anything that has been happened, that are red flags, because then the development team is probably working on a more architectural things or back-end kind of things, which usually doesn't add a lot of value specifically here directly in the start phase. And, oh, sorry. Let's go back. And I think the importance of the weekly demo is also to really involve them and ask a lot of questions, because you can show how you actually build functionality and how did you implement it, and also explain what business value did you add. It's important because some features really add a lot of business value, but sometimes you get into discussion with the business, okay, what value does this add? You just want to have these kind of small features, but it does not add any value. So it's important to have that conversation during your demos. It's an interactive session. It's not just showing what the result is. After you have done your couple of sprints, it's important to do a retrospective. It says project retrospective, but it's actually a retrospective on the project, but also on the program. So that's a mistake for me. Retrospective, there's really important to identify your success and improvement during your first project. You want to capture all the success, but also the improvements that you learned and lessons learned during your start phase, because you want to write them down and check what you need to organize and structure into your structure phase. What processes are in place? What does the business understand? They don't understand, for instance, the agile methodology. Okay, we're going to provide them an agile course, so we educate them, and we are going to do that with each and every project in the business, so we're going to guide this adoption through the organization. Other thing is element is that you need to articulate and quantify the value proposition of innovation in Mode 2. Really validate and check whether you meet the success criteria of your digital transformation program, and reflect on that, because that's important to get understanding from the business. I framed up a few elements and some questions that are typical questions that you want to ask during your retrospective and want to write down. I think an easy one is, okay, did we actually achieve this business goal? Is the application right fit? Does it add the right value? Did we deliver the right specs and the right application for it? But also, did we really create this wow factor? And I believe we had like an application builder for a large electronic company, which really wanted, for their marketing department, wanted an application that shows their product catalog. and the CIO was going to present on a very important event, global event, on innovation. And we really used that application, built that application in 4 weeks to show them the proof of innovation of that organization. And I think that was a really good example. And one of the important things that we also showed to the business, which they were not expecting, is this wow factor. And we embedded also analytics and also distributed it to the app store, so it was available for everyone, and also included push notifications, which were features that they did not expect. So it's an important thing to really resonate also on this retrospective, because you want to have this input also on your celebration. Sponsorship. How was the sponsor involved? Was there a sponsor involved? Was the sponsor present during the kickoff? Did the sponsor was able to help with impediments with your Mode 1 organization? For instance, was the infrastructure available? Was your sponsor able to counter with that, to help you as a team to be successful, to drive that? It's really important, because you can also evaluate your sponsor in this organization to see whether we're really able to make through this transformation. Also, another important element, if the team, did we have the right skill sets? Okay, are we having a UX expert? Did we need an UX expert into this project? Or did we need to make some integrations? Did we rather have a more technical person here to counter XML, SOAP, or REST interfaces specifically? And how did we adopt the agile process? Did we really embed it in the right way? Did we had all the ceremonies that we had? Were they successful? Did we had like value in the daily stand-ups, and also valuable retrospectives during the sprints? Business and IT collaboration, I think I talk a lot about that, but I think it's really an important item. So it boils down to, okay, did we show the demos? Were we able to interact with the business? Were they able to implement the daily walk-in hours, etc.? Or wasn't just not possible? I think it's also, and the retrospective is also a conversation with the business. So don't do the retrospective only with the development team. Include the sponsor and the business, because you want to improve your organization. You also want to hear from them, okay, we were not able to do the daily walk-in, but what could we do to improve? And think about that, because you need that input for your structure phase. Decision-making process, well, it's part of the product ownership role. How quickly could we make decisions? Was it days? Was it hours? Did we just send out an email and then we got a reply within a few minutes? Or did we need to keep constantly chasing the business to make any decisions in the process? And also, was the app production ready? And were we able to bring it actually live and in production, and how was it go live, and are the users involved, and is it actually going to be used? Just a retrospect on that, we gave you a lot of information for your structure phase, but also more specifically for your celebration. Which is the next part? I think celebration is, in my mind, I think possibly the most important element of a successful digital transformation program. I think if you accomplish something with great results, but no one knows about it or understands the value of it, how can it be the catalyst needed to drive change? I would go so far, like I mentioned, that success without celebrating is as good as worthless, at least when it comes to changing an organization. I think this is an important one to really understand, because you can do celebration only with the development team and everyone's happy with the result, but you really want to reach out to the rest of your organization, because everyone also wants to be part of that success. Few items that would help you maximize the impact. So invite as many people as possible. Like I mentioned, don't celebrate and eat cake only with the development team, but invite all other business stakeholders. Find also a place into an organization which is a central location where a lot of people come by, or organize just before, just after lunchtime, where you just have an open session, do a presentation like this, show the value, demonstrate the application, and also highlight what ROE and value that you created in those few weeks already. And they will think, okay, what does it mean for me, and what does it mean for our organization? Can I use it? And I have a practical example where we did certain celebration also at a really large transportation organization, and we built a workflow application for a head office department, for HR actually. And we were presenting this in the hallway, showing the results, etc. And we invited a lot of people, but the door was open. And suddenly we're reaching out cake, and everyone's walking out through the organization, and there was like, okay, where can I get cake? Where can I find cake? Oh, it's downstairs. And everyone drops by and comes in, and they're like, okay, wow, that's interesting. I'm now using Excel, for instance, and sending over a lot of Excel sheets. Can we also make a workflow tool for that, or a workflow application to really improve my my business and add more value? So that really resonates, and I think it's important. And don't forget to include, again, this senior sponsor. He needs to know and understand what is happening on the floor. He also needs to stretch the importance of this initiative, and not only for the project, again, for the digital transformation. And it could only be that him just announcing for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. That's enough. That's enough. But making sure that he's there means that it's important to our organization. And it's not only about a project. And of course, well, bring the largest cake you find. I think we almost created sort of a factory for cakes. One of the guys in my team, his wife, makes a lot of cakes, so that's a really good one. But I think, well, they look good, and I think it's a real good catalyst for changing the organization. Like I mentioned, present the results, but I think also really important, use this information for internal PR. You have a lot of internal communication systems or company walls, etc., or SharePoints, or how do you want to call it, where you can share an article or share some slides which you use into your presentation just to resonate within the organization the important initiatives that you are working on. And share it within your organization, because it will attract people, it will make sure, and it makes it more easier to change things in your organization. Whether it's convincing a change advisory board, or whether it's a driver to change some security guidelines, which are really complex, in order to help and support you in the digital goals. Now, short summary, what I just took you through. These are, I think, the key highlights. So, and the intake, it's really about focus on the right things. Focus on the right project, find the right project that fits. Focus also on the business value, making sure that the value is there. Onboarding is really important to ensure fast and efficient execution. If you don't have a proper kickoff, or everyone isn't set or committed to the project or committed to the initiative here, then it will probably fail, or at least it will slow you down in the process. Team enablement is really about developing the necessary capabilities, and not only the development team, but also include the business, and it's all about collaboration again. Retrospective, very important element for your structure phase. You want to have that retrospective and also write down these important things that you want and need to change into your organization. And of course, have this celebration, because this will really bring a catalyst to change into your organization. People want to be part of success, etc., and will help you to make it successful. And if you would like, we have also a special package that we offer to our clients, etc., where we can help you and support you with a lot of these initiatives, and we can tell you a bit more about this in the Mendix booth downstairs. So, thank you for that. Thank you for all your attention and your help, and I'm really looking forward to meet you at the drinks this afternoon. Thank you.